So we recently hosted a farm walk to showcase our Silvopasture pig project, which is a farmer grant research project done through NE SARE. So I wanted to do kind of a virtual tour for everybody that didn't get to come out to the farm and see it, so that everybody can see the awesome effect of raising pigs in the woods. So to kind of preface this, that is about the density of all of this woods before I started running pigs through it. So this was the paddock they were in last, before their current paddock. And you can see how opened it is and how much effect the pigs have had. Now I've chopped and dropped a lot of the small shrubby stuff to get more sunlight on the ground. There's a good example of what can happen if you don't move your water often enough, which I didn't. That's about a 1.5 foot deep hole. But we'll go ahead and walk the entire perimeter of the silvopasture, the developing silvopasture, although it's significantly developed, so you can see how much a pig can change the woods for you. And then you get to sell the pork. So entirely worth pursuing. There's my turkeys. They're not part of the silvopasture. If I don't put them in a shelter like that, enormous birds will come and eat them. So in a shelter they stay. It gets moved often so that they never have to live in their own filth, and they get to constantly hunt grasshoppers. But back to the silvopasture. So we're in the middle of a drought. We haven't had rain in almost 3 weeks. That's supposed to change next week, but right now everything's kind of bone dry. The day before the rain's forecasted, I'll come in here and seed all this with a pasture mix and then cover it very loosely with straw. And the pigs will have prepped the ground for what will be awesome pasture this fall, so next month and next year. This is the fence line. This little berm here is where the pigs were. And you can see it goes all the way down. Originally I was going to plant trees into it. That's what these stakes are. But that didn't work so great. The pigs root them up, even if I fence right up against them. And it gives me kind of a permanent fence line. It doesn't give me a lot of flexibility in the plan. So you'll see later, I'm now planting trees in what I call pods to give a whole lot more flexibility on future paddocks. A lot of dead trees need to come down. There's a dead ash with poison ivy growing all over it. Once the pigs are out of here and once winter comes and a lot of this green dies off, I'll get that tree on the ground, along with many others. There's a natural spring that flows through here, so even in a drought, this area stays nice and green. It all used to look like that before the pigs. Once you put the pigs through it, they open it up like this, which is fine. This will all green up. This was one of their biggest mud holes. They like hanging out under that old dead walnut tree too. But we'll walk through here. You can still see, even in the drought, this stays pretty moist down in here. The reason I don't run the pigs into that is because that's the property line's right over there. So I try and keep the pigs 10-15 yards off the property line in case these guys over here, when they're doing their corn or whatever, come through with a tractor, and I don't want them scaring the pigs and making them stampede. We definitely don't want that. No more great pig escapes. So again, you gotta consider that this was all overgrown. Couldn't even move out in here. And now it's incredibly opened up. I'll continue to drop these shrubs, get more sunlight down here, and plant some fruit and nut trees. And eventually, within a couple of years, I can hopefully reduce my feed costs and maybe even run the pigs behind cows as they come through here you know, in a good paddock shift rotation. Here's a good example of a paddock that's been between 30 and 60 days the pigs have been off of it. And you can see how much it's greened up. All that manure, all that disturbance, all that fertility are resulting in nice, thick, lush grass. If I can get that consistent throughout this area, like this entire 4 or 5 acres, that'd be awesome. And I would definitely be able to increase my cattle stocking density. Got a natural spring over here that I intentionally keep the pigs out of because they would ruin it. So continuing on, I try to leave species like this hawthorn here. That's a little hawthorn. That'll bear fruit all well into the winter. You can see those berries on there. Deer will come by and browse that when there's very little else to eat. It's nice and cool out in here, so even on hot days, having some greenery reduces the temperature. I leave clusters of multiflora rose like that one there, and this over here. The pigs like to shelter under it. They don't really use the shelters I give them. I give them little calf shelters, but they choose to sleep out even if it's raining. Sleep right out on the ground under a bush, and that seems to be where they like to be. So we're in here. This is paddock number 2, about 90 days. As you can see, that grass is over a foot tall. Got some Japanese stilk grass in there, but we also have a lot of orchard grass, some pokeberry, and a lot of other things coming up that you know, would make good browse. This here is the line of paddock 1. Paddock 1 hasn't recovered a ton because still got a lot of overhead cover. A lot of these maple trees have to come down to open this up and get more. Really, the maple trees need to come down over there because we're facing south right now, and that's what's impeding the light. But that's wintertime work. So continue on through here. We're into kind of a walnut grove here. These are all walnuts around us. And the pigs won't eat them when they're like that. But once these hulls turn black and fall off, the pigs will happily crunch those walnuts. They just wait for them to look more like that right there. Once that happens, I throw them into the pigs and they will chow down. Here's a little bamboo grove. Every year I have to fight this, otherwise it'll take over all my woods. But I leave it where it's at because it's good deer habitat, and it's always nice to have deer around. It's like meat stored on the hoof. Hear my fence popping. Pigs must have done something. There's a piggy right there. What's up, buddy? Want to say hi? So now we're into their current paddock. It may be their last paddock. They may have one more. It all depends on how much this rain enables them to disturb the area. Right now it's dry enough. They're not really having a big disturbance. All they do is eat and sleep. But once they have a chance to make mud, they're going to be busy doing that. And then I may have to move them off. Oh, this guy's coming to check us out. What's up, man? Everything's cool. Yeah. I think we're about to have a whole bunch of visitors. So we'll keep walking here. I throw the bamboo in. Cows would eat that, but the pigs don't seem to want to eat it. So they just let it lay there. I'm trying to make this exciting because I know it's not the most exciting thing to kind of watch somebody walk through the woods. Oh, here we go. Maybe this will add some excitement. Come say hello, guys. I love watching the pigs just kind of materialize out of the woods. What's up, man? Yeah, watch it. That fence is hot. You'll know. All right, we're going to continue on, pigs. Come show off your paddock. When I thin the brush and chop logs, if it's not suitable for firewood, I try and pile it up in the wettest areas so that it'll absorb moisture, rot faster, and then the pigs will come through and bust up the logs and create soil. Next year, we're going to get the pigs down into this. So that's what it looks like before pigs. And this is what it looks like after pigs. All right, what's up, buddy? You want to say hello? Want to say hello? Oh, yeah. Hey, careful. You're getting close to that fence, man. I don't want you getting zapped. All right, piggies, come on. Let's continue our walk. So if you have woods that are thick with brush, get some of these guys into it. Oh, yeah, he's one of my big boys. Yeah. What's up, big boy? Get some of these guys into it. They'll open it all up. They'll bust down dead trees. They'll bust up fallen logs. They'll essentially eliminate anything that is as tall as they are. And then you can come behind with a pair of loppers and a weed whacker. Take out any of the stubborn stuff the pigs didn't want to mess with. And then the next year, you'll have grass. And if you're in a position to put cows into it, which I'm not right now because I don't have perimeter fencing, but that's down the road. Once I get a spare 50 grand, I guess. Then put cows in there and then run the pigs behind the cows. And then you can run chickens behind everything. And now you got 3 meat yields from the same acre. And you can, you know, have some pretty profitable land. So this is a good example of last year's grazing. That's what it grows into all on its own. Versus this year's grazing. So we'll walk this last fence line. Learn a couple lessons here. Lesson 1 is if you want a tree to live, don't let the pigs have access to it. I was really fond of this locust right here, but the pigs have bent it over because I didn't fence them out of it. So in the future, I'll do this. These are all chestnuts I've planted. I just won't give the pigs access to them. My next fence line, if they get another paddock this year, is going to run right up there. And this will be the walkway. This is a hybrid poplar. It's doing well. That's a sprinting pig. What's up, buddy? Exciting stuff, I know. Alright, let's continue on. As we've talked about before, I use these Premier One solar chargers to energize the fence. You guys need to calm down. You gotta be careful. These guys are like 250, 300 pounds right now. That's a lot of weight to be moving through the woods. You don't want it to catch you in the back of the knee. This is a 500 or 600 foot perimeter. So I use one energizer to charge the fence. And I used to only put the chargers at one of the spots where the fences join. But I found that just clipping it on the fence anywhere still distributes the charge strong enough. That whole fence is at about 8,000 volts right now. That other charger is charging that yellow wire on the inside, which is also at 8,000 volts. And for me is just a kind of an added security. That feeder right there is worth its weight in gold. It was just moved today, but I will use that forever. I also have feed troughs. I don't know if you can see it through the woods there. We'll get a better view of those in a second. I only use those to control the pigs. So when I want the pigs to move to a certain area, then I feed them in the trough for a day or two. And they'll follow those troughs wherever they go. So when it comes time to process these guys, I'll move the troughs into there. And they will come running anytime I dump feed into them. Yeah, there you go. You can see I'm using the trough. I used the trough to distract them from the feeder, and I moved it today. So troughs are useful tools. They're waterers or buckets like so. Strap them to trees that I intend to cut down anyway. That way I don't care if they do root damage. And I always have two in case one fails. So there's one. Then the other one's over here in their home base. There's the other one. And then I use these calf shelters for shelter. They use them when they're piglets, but once they're big, like I said, they're not really interested in going in there. So they sit there largely unused for most of the pigs' time here. But that's our growing silvopasture rather, and next year it'll be even better. Here's an example of trees planted in a pod. So this will give me a lot of flexibility. Rather than having a long row of trees, I got this cluster that I can pollard and make a edible bush. And now I can run fencing along 3 directions. This is built in a triangle here. So now it gives me the opportunity to run the fence in 3 different directions along the outside of it. So that's how I'm going to do trees from now on. It also makes it easier to irrigate them, and I'll have less die. I have a lot of trees that die on me. So, and then sometimes my stakes rot and fall over, and like that one. But I have a pod there, a pod there, a pod there. And these are all going to be edible. I can come through, take trimmings, and throw it into the pigs while still fencing them out. There's another one, and another one, and I build these all throughout the area. So irrigation is key. You have to irrigate them, otherwise you're going to lose very expensive tree plantings. And this is last year's home base. This was the most disturbed area on the farm last year, and you can see now it's greening up very nicely. So it doesn't take long to recover. This is, you know, less than a year. And it's almost like the pigs weren't here. That was green, but those are cool weather grasses. And when we got this summer drought, they just died off. But that's all grass kind of fell over. So that's a virtual tour of our silvopasture. And if you stayed with me for it all, I hope you found it to be an enjoyable walk.